This is The Boys podcast from TV Podcast Industries. We're back talking about The Boys Season 3, Episode 3, Barbary Coast.
Whatever this weapon is, it probably won't work on Homelander.
And what if it does?
Even worse, because it wouldn't end with him. You go after another suit, then another, then all of them.
If you'd have told me about this sooner, Homelander might already be dead. Ryan wouldn't be running from one safe house to the next, wondering when his nut of dad's gonna drop out of the sky. And Becca might still be alive.
Welcome back, fellow boys and girls, to the Boys podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're on to the third episode of the premiere pack, I guess we'll call them. Episode 3 of Season 3 of The Boys, Barbary Coast. I'm one of your hosts, Darick.
And I am Chris. I have exploded the head of John, got rid of him, and I'm taking over for the next 2 episodes.
Welcome back, Chris. Hope
you.
your honeymoon went well.
It did. Unfortunately, I got a bit of the COVID. I was planning on being back a bit sooner, but yes, COVID is still rampant around the world. Who knew?
Yes, it is.
I can no longer say COVID-free since 93. Just because it was a great rhyme. But no, unfortunately, it took me down for a bit. Luckily, I am vaccinated and it was not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, but you're on your rear, let's say.
Yes, I was. I slept for 3 days straight. And I was like, cool, I'm going to be in bed. I was like, when I got it, I was like, oh, I'm feeling great. I'm going to lie down. I'm going to watch Star Wars Rebels because I've never kind of done that. I did get through one season, which I'm happy about.
Very good.
But the rest of it was like, I slept, I think one day I slept for 20 hours pretty much straight. And I was like, oh, that's not good. Interesting.
It really sucks because I know, like, we kind of talk about it, like myself and John got caught with COVID because we were traveling. When we wanted to travel, we got caught and diagnosed with COVID, even though we didn't think we had it. We just thought we had a little tiny cold, but definitely out there. Keep staying safe if you're in packs of lots of people. I was watching the Star Wars Celebration last week, and it was good to see everybody that was there. We're all wearing masks the whole time, even in a massive event like that. So glad you're feeling better. Glad you're back with us for The Boys. I know I got your Insta reaction after watching 3 episodes, just a mad shocked face watching the first 3 episodes of The Boys. We will be talking in depth on the 3rd episode here, and we do have, thankfully, some feedback from our wonderful fellow boys and girls, so we'll be able to talk back about your thoughts on those first 2 episodes. But do you want to give a sense of what you thought, Chris?
It is The Boys, unashamedly The Boys. It is pulling a lot of threads together in the first 3. I see why they did the 3 together. Mm-hmm. This is the 3rd time now they've done it, and again, you can see why they built this mini arc in. They're trying to pull a lot of storylines, and I was like, I did expect certain people not to be back, and they're all back, and I'm like, cool, you got Mother's Milk back, great, because it was a point I was like, oh no, he's gone, oh okay. What they're doing, it also is great, and that first episode, that what if Ant-Man had killed Thanos moment, very much playing up to that, the end game. Well, just have Ant-Man go and kill Thanos, it'd be fine. Yeah. That's what would happen. Interesting.
Absolutely. I meant to mention this before. We talked about the X-ray feature on Prime Video, which gives you a little behind the scenes bits and pieces and some extra footage. I know they have all the videos for all the songs that are in the show, all the full length version of those. So go check those out on X-ray. But one of the things they did mention is the production designer for The Boys actually has passed away. He passed away after doing it, and they said one of his final jobs was to build the giant penis from episode 1. So great legacy left behind by the production designer for the show.
Yes. Definitely. How you will use that again, I'm not sure, but they will find a way.
I love it.
I did love to hear that they, within the first 4 episodes, they used up all their blood that they had planned for on all of season 3 within the first 4 episodes of filming, and that they had to order more blood. When your special effects department are like, yeah, we've just run out.
Yeah. This might give the boys too much credit, but it's the Coriolanus of TV. Coriolanus is the known as the bloodiest play on stage. So it's the Coriolanus of TV.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Welcome back, fellow boys and girls. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, you can subscribe by going over to tvpodcastindustries.com. While you're over there, you can leave a voicemail of any of your thoughts on any of the episodes of The Boys so far. You can also send emails to us at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. Or if you want to join us on our Facebook group, you can join us over on facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. There's a spoiler post up there for each of the episodes as they're released, so you can join us over there as well.
Yes, and we're on each of the other platforms. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. You want to find us, look for TV Podcast Industries. But with all that said and done, Darick, do you want to tell us who gave us what on episode 3?
Absolutely, yes. The showrunner for the show, Eric Kripke, is still involved in each of the episodes. I think he's even listed as lead writer for the show as well, so he does have both of the credits there. These episodes are based on the comics by Garth Ennis and Darick Robertson, and come from executive producers Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. Weirdly, I was calling him Seth Green on the first episode, Chris. My apologies. I don't know why I was having Seth Rogen and Seth Green. I just had it written incorrectly in my docs, unfortunately. But this episode was written by Anslem, Richardson, and Geoff Aull. Geoff was a script coordinator for the first season of The Boys. Every episode involved in the writer's room has come back now to write an episode with Anslem Richardson. And Anslem wrote season 2, episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off, which was an excellent episode of season 2. Remember it well. So great to have them both back working together on this episode.
Definitely. I remember that episode well.
Excellent. And Julian Holmes directed this episode. We've talked about Julian a couple of times because he's directed episodes of The Daredevil and Iron Fist on Netflix. So we have definitely talked about Julian Holmes' work in the past. I believe he even did, the episode he did for Iron Fist was in season 2 as well, which is a good sign.
Yes, it was, because that was a better season.
Exactly.
But should we get into the synopsis for this episode?
Sure. Following his confrontational birthday speech on live TV, Homelander's stock has gone up 21 points, particularly with disaffected white males in the Rust Belt. But this boost has given him new confidence, as popularity equals power at Vought Industries. Homelander goes against his co-captain Starlight's wishes and brings the Deep back into the 7. But Deep has to pay his dues and show Homelander he's willing to play ball by having his octopus friend Timothy for dinner. With Deep's return and the addition of American hero winner Supersonic to the team, the 7 are now complete. But Homelander has one last twist to announce to the public. He and Starlight are now a couple. With a clenched fist and gritted teeth, Starlight goes with this new storyline. #Homelight. Elsewhere, Billy, Mother's Milk, Huey and Kamiko confront Grace Mallory about her operations in Nicaragua and dealings with Soldier Boy, the former head of Payback. While Mallory was running a government-sanctioned drug-running operation in 1984, a young Stan Edgar brought the soup team with him as his first test of his idea of soups in the military. When Russian forces attack Mallory's camp, Edgar's test quickly fails. Untrained and untested, Payback create havoc, killing half of Mallory's team and their own. Black Noir is left permanently scarred, and Soldier Boy is captured, taken deep into Russian territory. As Butcher takes in the story and the seeming betrayal of Grace Mallory, he recovers from his experience with V24, but his soup stepson Ryan realizes there's something very wrong with him as he attacks Billy's faster heartbeat and smells the V in his blood. Billy lashes out, pushing the boy away and telling him it's too dangerous to see him again. Meanwhile, after being contacted by his old flame Sherry, Frenchie has a meeting with Russian gangster Little Nina. In exchange for keeping Sherry safe, Nina wants him to work for her again. Frenchie negotiates his way out of there, but Billy needs the Russian connection and forces him to go back and arrange a meeting. That's the synopsis for episode 3. Chris, we broke our cardinal rule on TV Podcast Industries.
Oh no.
Yeah, we talked about something that happened in episode 3 on our episode 2 podcast. I have fixed it. I've edited it out. It has been deleted, but it is in here now. It's just a small point, though, but it is our John's, let's say, protagonist moment from the episode. So I'm going to actually jump over to John and his thoughts about the arm break scene within this episode. It's just a small one.
It's all right. But this is what happens when I leave. I'm just saying. I am apparently the dictator that keeps us on track. I'm glad, but that's not true.
That's definitely me. That's definitely me, Chris.
Let's go. Take it away, John.
So Huey's trying to get out of work. So I guess most people would call in sick or like at least sort of put on a snotty nose or a bit of a cough or something like that, he gets Kimiko to break his arm.
Oh, yes.
And so I guess he can have quite a while out of the office. So I really kind of enjoyed, just the, I mean, I couldn't watch it, but just that, you know, they managed to make it that sort of just horrific that you just have to turn away. I can never watch anything like that. And, you know, the boys, got me there.
Absolutely.
They did a good, purposeful arm break, which is always, when are they going to do it? Are they going to break it on 2 or are they going to get to 3 and then go 4? You know, where are they going to land it? Yeah. So really kind of just one of those moments for me. It's like when sharp things go near to eyes. It's like I have to just kind of
look away.
Yeah,
absolutely. I loved how the scene was actually built up with the naivety of Huey. Kimiko's willingness to be as violent as that.
Yeah.
And then layered in on top of it, we have Mother's Milk being completely practical here. So I love that, you know, Huey comes in and goes, break my arm. Kimiko's like, okay, no problem. But he doesn't realize how painful this is going to be. That doesn't seem to have gone through his head. And Mother's Milk is going, no, you need to break his arm at this point here because you can't just break his arm because then he'll never get feeling back.
It needs to be a clean break.
Exactly.
So it heals well.
Yeah.
But
I do like that about Mother's Milk this season. Laz Alonso, the actor who plays Mother's Milk, has mentioned in the past about him being obsessive compulsive, the actual character being obsessive compulsive, and that it will come out in the show, and we're really seeing that. Number of times in this episode, as you mentioned, the kind of trigger point for Mother's Milk to go back to his old ways, where he goes and investigates all of his old files and lays them out on the floor. You know, even just that moment of seeing the way he's laid them all out, you can tell how obsessive he is about everything in his life.
He's cleaning his desk as well when he gets back with the boys and is giving out to Frenchie for effectively being a pig. You know?
Yeah.
So really, it's a nice little touch to the character.
Absolutely. I do wonder though, how did the boys get access to the Flatiron building in New York? Like that is an amazing building that's so people know so well. And the boys have an office in this massive building. I guess they do have some perks and do have some connections, I suppose. But it was very impressive that like Mother Bill calls it out that even in this universe, this is the Flatiron building. It's well known.
Yeah,
it's a registered building. You should treat it with some kind of respect.
Definitely,
so,
definitely.
Straight out of the comics, I will call that out straight away. The Flatirons, and I was just as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, amazing. So there's 2 points here. I'll just jump in on.
Yeah.
The break aspect was brilliant. So I watched it through gritted teeth because I was like, they're not gonna. Oh, they did. Because like they nearly popped it through skin, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
I don't know what it is about it. I felt a bit like Billy Butcher watching it. I was smiling and unperturbed. Let's say, but John definitely did not watch the scene.
The OCD moment I think is absolutely brilliant with Mother's Milk. Throughout this episode and the previous, because it is a thing. I'll put my hand on my heart and say, I suffer, and it's a stress trigger. So when I get stressed, my OCD flares too dramatic, and seeing that actually portrayed in a very similar way, where the more stress Mother Milk gets, the more his OCD then starts to flare, and you do become compulsive, where he has laid out everything to the point where he's completely forgot about dinner on the stove.
Yes.
Which is like really interesting. And then
yes, Chris burns dinner all the time.
I never burn dinner. No, I do things in numbers of 3. That's the interesting point. When I get super stressed, it's the door handle 3 times. It's the wipe the desk 3 times. I don't know why 3 is a lucky number.
And that's why we always have 3 points in our podcast.
Exactly.
So, speaking of which, that was kind of John's protagonist moment, his boys moment for the episode. Not really. It was just an outtake from last episode because we messed up. But Chris, since you haven't been on for a while, do you want to give us your protagonist moment, your boys moment for the episode?
I'm going to take kind of the one of the bigger aspects of this, which is Payback's flashback. Payback from the comic books has always been... it's an interesting team. And seeing them here, how they've been integrated in with, essentially with the backstory of Mallory being a young CIA agent who was in charge of the cocaine being smuggled from Nicaragua back to, and they called it out, this operation. Mother's Milk goes, where? Tell them where you sold it to.
Exactly.
And apparently that leans from some potential truth aspects of from the war previously.
Yeah.
So I was just that. And then, so we get to see the introduction of a young Stanley Edgar bringing in Payback as a temporary test with the CIA, embedding them there to see as a way to, again, get Supes in the military. It's all about getting Supes in the military.
Yeah. It seems like Stan Edgar definitely subscribes to, if it doesn't work, try again. Like, this is 1984. So 30 years he's been trying to get Supes in the military. And now he's finally gotten the way, as we mentioned in the first episode. He has the way of getting Supes in the military is just to give 24 hours of power to them, no longer putting any of the 7 involved in the military. That's the job he wants to get out of. But yes, for 30 years he's been trying to get Supes in the military. This is what he's been trying to push.
Yeah. So I really enjoy this. We get to see the stupidity of Supes again, which is like the bug boy, I can't remember his name, flying up.
Swatter.
Or
Swatto. Yeah.
Flying up, and then again, he is the reason that they got spotted. And then again, they just go for blood. But we do see Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy go full his version of Captain America. Because that is what this team is a bit of a play on. You have him as Captain America, the Crimson Countess being a play on a Marvel character. And then you have the TNT twins being a play on the Wonder Twins from DC. Again, when the boys were, as a comic book, they took liberties quite a lot on who they were playing. And there's a Hulk-like character in the comic books.
Right.
Who is definitely interesting. So they took a lot of liberties with this. So seeing, like, I think one of the guys is like a similar, like a thinker. He's supposed to be kind of like the guy from the Suicide Squad.
Right.
Like a mentalist, telepathic, etc., etc. But again, you see them just get destroyed.
Absolutely. And just the privilege of them. They arrive in this situation with no knowledge, no training at all, no idea what they're doing. And they just, they're like, we need a couple of your guys to come and get water for our tents, basically. That's the first thing they say. And then they start showing off the whole time that they're there. And then when they're under attack, like, God, this moment with poor Mallory, she's been at them the whole time to, just leave it to her. She'll work everything out, kind of thing. And when they get attacked, they take out, what did she say, 160 of her men are taken out, and a lot of them from Payback,
Exactly.
Like you see Gunpowder, who we saw the adult version, Sean Patrick Flannery played him in the previous episode. This is the kid version of him sitting on a gun, shooting everybody in front of him, almost killing Mallory, just because he doesn't let up shooting bullets, basically. She's shouting out, going, "Those are my guys, stop shooting them," So yeah, they are awful, and this goes down so badly, including losing themselves. Swatto goes up and flies in the air in an amazing looking scene, gets hit by a missile, which heat seeks him. Absolutely excellent. I did love that moment though with Soldier Boy where he throws one of the guys up with his shield, throws him up in the air, and you see the impact in the distance as his body breaks and falls to the ground. I just thought that was so good, because so often with these superpowered characters punching normal unsuperpowered people, you see them just flying away and it's all fine. They're grand. They're knocked out. That's not somebody that's knocked out.
No. This guy crunches. And again, with the boys, you get that sound effect. Eric Kripke has always been, when he said he wanted to do this, and it's from season 1, we've seen the first second with Huey as he loses his girlfriend. Like, you heard the crunch, crunch, crunch and the blood splat. Like, and it's the same here. I really enjoyed, especially with this, there's 2 avenues on this where we're going to take this point. The first being Soldier Boy being taken away. And they're burying the lead, which is apparently he got taken by the Russians, but we don't see it because Mallory is knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that because they are, like, they could have just easily went, oh, here he got knocked out, like, what gun took him down? Like, they're burying a lot of this, so I think they are setting this fun aspect up, this kind of thread that's going to lead us. This is going to be the major plot point, I think, that's going to pull us through outside of Victoria Newman and that whole aspect of the kind of government piece and what's happening there and that story, because I thought that was going to be the main storyline.
Right.
And thinking, so they definitely, I think, we're getting this as being the main one. But also, we got to see a demasked Black Noir.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
So I'm not going to give anything away. I would just say they are potentially changing things up from the comic books, which is cool. Like, again, and again, say potentially because you brought up a very good point about season 2 at the ending with Black Noir. Do you want to bring that up?
Yeah, I was going to say the season 2 ended with them confronting Black Noir, or Black Noir confronting them at the Vought Towers building, and then him being fed peanuts, which he's allergic to and super allergic to. And I thought that was like his ultra weakness and he'd be dead. And we have not seen anything about that. I think it's been mentioned. In fact, it was mentioned in this episode that he's allergic to nuts and people should stop eating them around him, basically. But I had thought that it had killed him.
Yep.
And he couldn't get to his EpiPen, his adrenaline quickly enough. So I thought that he had died at the end of last season. So I thought that was a big moment. And then this season it comes back with Black Noir at the premiere of the Rise of the Seven,
Dawn of the Seven.
Dawn of the Seven. That's the one, of course.
Where there's only 5 of them. Mm-hmm. I love that. Still love that part. So this is interesting. So we see that this is back in 84. So he's about 20 something here now in 84, around the same age as Giancarlo Esposito's character. So this makes Black Noir a lot older than we expected. Mm-hmm. And we also see potentially he may die or not die, but he's been a large gash is taken out of his brain.
Yes.
A large chunk. His face is melted on one side and part of his mouth is melted together. Yeah. Explaining potentially why he doesn't talk in this. But again, that makes him super older than we originally thought.
Yeah.
As well as maybe he's still alive. Mm-hmm. Or maybe he died back in 84. He died again last season. And there's just this large... There's many Black Noirs. I think they may be going for. But again, only because potentially they're changing the storyline of what the comic books is. But again, I'm here for this change because it's something I'm not aware of. Yeah,
and it is interesting that it call out that he has never taken off his mask in public before. He's trying to push for it. He's saying, that they will accept a black superhero now. Someone like Eddie Murphy is massively popular in America in the mid 80s. He could be like that for the soups, and Edgar's kind of going, no, not ready for it. Keep your mask on. So entirely possible, yes, we could have had 20 different Black Noirs since the start. He's the center of the boys. He's the center of the payback team. So maybe they just keep replacing him if anything ever happens to him. It's entirely possible. What a great opportunity for them. They can just keep the mask on and somebody else plays the role. Good stuff. Anything else about the payback flashback, Chris?
No, that's really it. I do like how they pause it midway through to give us a throw-up scene, but especially because they literally pause it. And I was like, it's a fun way of doing it.
Yeah, just as everything starts to blow up all around them, you just get a pause as Billy goes off and pukes. But I wanted to just pull a little bit out of that. So the reason why they're with Mallory is to find out for this weapon that could be possible to kill Soldier Boy. That's the whole point. So what we find out here is that she doesn't know the weapon because it's Crimson Countess that comes up and tells her he's been killed and then taken away. His body's been taken away by the Russians. So So it turns out Crimson Countess does have the information that they need.
Yeah.
She was the one that saw it happen. She should know, and she got away from Frenchie and Kamiko in episode 2. So hopefully we'll see Larry Holden back now. So they will have to go back and track down Crimson Countess again. Maybe hear another one of her unusually terrible songs.
They were so good. That was just like, there's that song in the US about the dogs. They always make a joke out of it. I would know it if I hear it, and any of our American listeners will know it's on the ads for like basically like an animal shelter charity, and everyone makes fun of it. It's the same one that plays, and it's been playing for like 20 years.
Right.
It's very much, I think, a slight on that. And the only reason I think that is because I've seen so many jokes about that kind of type of thing.
Right. Chimps don't cry, Chris.
Chimps don't cry. They don't, but they are on the inside.
Anyway, so all I was saying was they will have to get out and chase down her to get more information, potentially. But they have got a lead now that Soldier Boy was taken off by the Russians. So you never know where it's going to lead them.
Well, probably to Russia, but who knows? What about yourself? What is your major moment for this?
Well, that's exactly it. It does lead on to my protagonist moment for the episode, because I want to talk about Frenchie and Little Nina, a character from the comic books as well. Mm-hmm. So nice to see Little Nina here. It's great also to see Cherie come back. This was Frenchie's partner that we saw in season 1, his partner in crime, and possibly love life. Frenchie tends to get around. We heard quite a lot about that in this episode as well. But Cherie's got herself into a bit of trouble because she hasn't had the same opportunities that Frenchie's had. She has gone back to work for Little Nina, and she's still on drugs. So Cherie is now in a really bad position. She's had 11 kilos of drugs stolen from her while she was high. And now she's in massive trouble with Little Nina. She's going to get killed for it because she makes reference to another one of their friends who did something similar, and she cut off bits of his body while he was still alive. So, yeah.
Or did, as Little Nina says, Cherie actually just stole it, the 11 kilos. Who do we believe? Cherie or Little Nina?
You're right. There is no honor among thieves, right?
Well, I actually just played that Uncharted Honor Among Thieves, and apparently there is, but who knows?
Excellent. But it is Frenchie's partner. So Frenchie is our point of view character. I'm not going to believe Little Nina over Frenchie, and Frenchie seems to think she's in the right place. But yes, Cherie being in trouble leads to Frenchie being taken by Little Nina. This kind of plays out interestingly. It plays out differently than I thought. Little Nina seems to think she has a hold over Frenchie because of Cherie, and he's kind of saying, well, look, I'm working for the CIA now, so there's nothing you can do to me. Yeah?
Yeah.
But I do like the little insights to the sexual relationships of Frenchie in the past. It made me laugh. One of the guys kind of going, Little Nina needs to see you. And he goes, how are you getting on? Are you still having a French guy have sex with your wife? Basically, which is Frenchie in the past. And then we find out from Little Nina that they've also had a relationship in the past with a little bit of dog collar action.
Yep.
I guess.
Yep. Yeah. And a bit of a safe word and all.
Yeah. Yes. What is the safe word, Chris? Can you remember?
Oh, I can't. No.
You can't. All right, great. I can tell you then. It's Vincent Cassel, which is Frenchie's shout out from the comic books. That's what he shouts when he goes into battle. In the comics, he shouts Vincent Cassel, very famous French actor. So good little touch there. But I like how he extricates himself from the situation, gets himself out of there. It seems like Nina would do very bad things to him, and so Frenchie's just about gotten away with his life. Gets back to the boys' headquarters in Flatiron Building, and Kamiko's telling him, it's time to go. We need to get out of here. The boys aren't good for us. Let's go right now. And then it turns out all the work that Frenchie's done to get away from Little Nina is all for naught, because they need that Russian connection. They need to go back to Nina again and ask effectively to get to Russia, possibly to investigate this situation with Soldier Boy. So I do like how it plays out. It's an interesting connection, something different for Frenchie to do. You kind of feel in these scenes where, especially having the boys go to Mallory's place to ask this information, a lot of people kind of sat around in the episode, listening to what Mallory was going to say. So there was no need for Frenchie to go there. So nice to have a sideline story for him, at least.
Yeah, and even more so that it is him now having to very much decide about his old life versus his new life versus a potentially newer life with Kimiko. And I did like that aspect of it as well. When she does go, I'm done, I just want to be out. Like, we need to leave. And it's that, before anything can even happen, before he can even say, you have the rest of the gang kind of breaking down, coming in, and just kind of, that's it. We're on to the next.
Yeah. And this was kind of led on from the conversation that Kamiko had with Ryan, with Homelander's stepson, where she kind of realizes she's killed people in the past, but she has a choice now. She can choose to stop killing people, but only if she gets away from the boys. That's kind of where she is at the moment. So I kind of like her storyline as well, but it's only a little bit of it in this episode. So hopefully we'll see more in the future. But that's my boys moment for the episode. Let's get on to our antagonist moment, our 7 moment from the episode. Chris, where are you at the 7?
Just Homelander. Let's just jump straight in there. And it is, he gives no shits. And that is basically where we are. He has gone full, I do not care. It is essentially, he starts talking, he wants to be loved. He is happy to be loved. But he will equally be okay with being feared.
He's absolutely fine with being feared, huh?
That was, that speech showed me, or again, just brought in why Anthony Starr is so good in this, because he is smiling, everything is happy, and he just gets this malice, this just evil Superman. Because he's just talking about, at first I'll take out kind of like the Pentagon and the White House and kind of you know what, for shits and giggles, I'll might destroy New York, and maybe, where are you from again? That bum town in Idaho. Like, just talks about it so nonchalant.
Yeah. And
just, all because Starlight is like, she brings up the flight tape again to try and rein him back in. And we just see now that the fact that Stormfront is dead, he does not care anymore. And so it is.
And more importantly, his rating has gone back up.
Oh, yes.
So that's the big thing for him. He was told effectively to just step back, stay in the background, because people don't really like Homelander anymore. People connecting him with a Nazi is really bad for business. So he has to step back. Starlight has to take center stage, even though they're calling her co-captain. She's the one making all the decisions. So they took away everything from him, and he gets it all back because of popularity. Hey, how many meetings have you been in where you get the kind of stats that Ashley is telling to Homelander, Chris? Oh, you've gone up 12 points. Oh, that means that the demographics here are much better for you. You know, they do call out again the type of people that are going and following Homelander and are finding that he's more of an interesting person, and the popularity ratings are rising with him. They call out specifically, they're pretty much the kind of people that would be following Nazis anyway. Yeah. So exactly the type of people that were mentioned by Stormfront last season, saying that people just don't like the word Nazi, but they agree with everything I'm saying. You know, that's her attitude, and that's the kind of people she was rallying. Those are the kind of people that have formed this group, the Storm Frontier, I think it was called at the opening of the season. This group that's been formed to follow her teachings and follow her way, because they totally believe what she was in. Now they're lining up behind Homelander after his new speech on TV. So
the Uber mention.
Yes, absolutely. And for Vought, doesn't matter. It's all about the numbers. Exactly. It's all about selling whatever we can sell. So now Homelander's back on top, and they have nothing on him anymore. Every single thing that Starlight tries, from I'm your co-captain, Stan Edgar said I'm the one that makes these decisions, doesn't work. And having the video, which he previously didn't want to get out. Now it's, if you release it, then I just kill everybody.
Yeah.
So
I'm very much interested to see the Stan Edgar Homelander face off. Which that's where we are barreling to Like, that will happen. And I'm trying to... Usually what we've seen here is that St. Edgar has something up his sleeve. Mm-hmm. And Homelander's openly now talking about he talks about to the jumper earlier in the previous episode where he was born in a test tube but doesn't really have a birthday.
Yeah.
And we know now as well that there are other things that I'm assuming Stan Edgar is kind of holding back about Homelander. Because and I'll put it down now, Eric Kripke and Seth Rogen and the rest of them, Evan, have said that from the Boys Diabolical, the Homelander animated episode with Black Noir, that one is now canon and should be watched because it will relate to something that happens in this. Yeah. So if you have not watched that, please go watch it now. It's about a 10, 15 minute, 12 minute animated short.
Yeah.
Telling about one of Homelander's one of his first big solo runs as a superhero with
It's where he learns how far he can push it. Under Vought, basically.
And I think that's going to play something as well. Like, there'll be an element there. And we're going to find out a lot more about this. We ended with Homelander marking his territory across the sky last season. Yes. And we could see it start to slip away. And I think we may end up with a very unhinged, more so than even by episode 3, unhinged Homelander by the end of the season.
Absolutely. He's just testing the waters right now. You know, he's just coming up with some things that he can do to mess with people, you know? I'll talk about one in my antagonist moment in a second, but the other one that goes on in the episode, he's effectively messing with the new co-captain. He's messing with Starlight throughout this episode, culminating in him creating a storyline on TV that the two of them are in a relationship together. And Starlight just has to grin and bear it, right? Even Huey tells her, who's been the one that has been telling her to run away from day one. Even Huey tells her, well, you got to stick it out because we might have a possibility of killing Homelander in the future. And he will go after you if you leave, effectively. So keeping her in harm's way, effectively, to avoid her being in worse harm's way. So all the choices are bad for her. But yeah, he is out there messing with people right now. But I think we might see a more real world example of that moment last season where we saw Homelander destroy everybody in front of him, from the parapet, all the public that were standing in front of him. That was going on in his mind. I think we may see him wreak havoc on all of America by the end of this season.
Yeah. And I wonder, do we get a season? Well, I'm hoping we get a season 4 because very much you could go so many places with this. Absolutely.
And Kripke's the master of that. Remember, Supernatural, even though he left after 8 or 9 seasons, did go for 15 seasons. Yeah. So he is the master of setting things up that go on for can go on for a long time.
Agreed. But speaking of messing with, do you want to take about your antagonist moment?
Look, I got to talk about the Deep's dinner party. Wow, poor Deep. You know, we've said from the first episode and the first moment that Deep, as a character on the show, is irredeemable for what he did to Starlight joining the group. She was brought on board at the Seven because of the hope that she had, because of the hope that she would give to the public, and instantly he took that away by raping her. You know, that's completely irredeemable. But what they do on the show consistently throughout each episode of the season that he's appeared in is punish him for that moment. Mm-hmm. And none more, I think, so far than what we see here. We see him building himself back up. Himself and his new wife are building themselves back up to the point that he's now back in the seven most powerful soups in all of America and all of the world, really. He's brought himself back to this point. But not without punishment. Homelander is going to make him pay. He's going to make sure that he knows if he puts him back on the team, it's another person that Homelander controls. That is really what he's looking for. Starlight had the ability to add 2 members of the team that he would have no control over. So that's why he's bringing back the Deep here, and he's going to make him and force him to do everything that Homelander says. But the scene itself is really shocking. I think because we'd seen the sex scene earlier on with his wife, where he's watching Timothy watch him, and the two of them are getting pleasure from each other while the Deep's having sex with his wife. Because we'd seen that, and it's kind of a comedy moment, 5 minutes beforehand, and then we see a live version of this octopus, of Timothy, as we hear, who has a wife and kids, as the Deep says, be placed in front of him to be eaten whole, to prove his loyalty to Homelander. It's shocking. It's really shocking. And the fact that his wife is sending him a text going, eat the octopus, like, she's totally there for the power and prestige that comes with being, as we call them, wag of a member of the Seven. So that's effectively why she's there. She doesn't care at all about who the Deep is. You gotta kind of put your head into what the Deep goes through. Every time he walks past an aquarium or any type of fish, he hears everything that's going on. He's having conversations with them, just like you have conversations with people around you. So this is a massive thing. He's obviously hearing Timothy the whole time as Timothy's being eaten. And that's the punishment that he's going through and has been going through since the first episode. So, another awful to watch boys moment, but brilliantly put together on the show.
Yeah, and it's such a fun thing to see. Do you remember the dolphin scene?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's just so reminiscent of that as we see, because I know the octopus was CGI'd, but they actually put almost emotional, the empathy where he's like, he's screaming at me, he's yelling, he's crying now, and you're like, they imbued it onto onto the octopus to a degree, because they had the eyes like looking like the puppy dog eyes, and I was like, oh god, it's killing me. I was still eat sushi tonight, but it's killing me. I absolutely loved it. One thing I will on the Deep, his Lifetime movie on Vought Network, absolutely brilliant.
Yes, last episode, absolutely,
absolutely
really good
brilliant.
Fun. Yes,
again, when you think of these things,
the name of it is just what gets me. The Not Without My Dolphin, which is just fantastic. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, another punishment for the Deep. That's it for the antagonist moments. One last section to go through. Let's go through our any other outstanding moments in the episode we want to talk about. Anything else that stood out that we need to think about before we move on to the next episode, I suppose.
Very much quickly for me is the superhero hangover. And the effect partially of that, and the discussion with Mallory that Butcher has. So we do see that there is the temporary V, the V24, that they kind of, that he has 3 vials of. He's used one to basically destroy the Soldier Boy's sidekick. But the hangover here is violent. Again, ending in a comical moment where he pukes on Huey during a very tender scene, and it's great.
I love it. God, Jack Quaid, I love that he's up for it, because you can tell he is. You can tell all the interactions that he has on Twitter with the behind the scenes team and all the cast and crew. He's totally up for the jokes, but seriously, it seems like sometimes they set this up and he doesn't know, because the reactions are so natural to the what the hell just happened. Again, getting more goo and blood and guts in his face. I'd say the cleaning bill for poor Huey is
that went
massive.
in his mouth.
Definitely.
Like he was mid open, so I potentially they didn't tell him when it was going to happen.
Exactly.
And I think it was just like, it's going to happen, he's going to puke on you at the end of the scene, and he's just gotcha, perfect.
So good.
But then we do see Butcher with his eyes are still flaring for the few hours. He can't control parts of it. Luckily, he is still strong, because Ryan does squeeze his arm, which should have broken his arm when they are leaving, because Ryan is super strong now.
Yeah, I just thought that Ryan was exerting enough force to keep him in place rather than trying to break his arm, or rather than losing control himself. But that's entirely possible. Yeah.
So I like this whole aspect, because it is going to set up that they will potentially get more V24. This is from the comic books. At one point, the whole team is on it, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and they're all permanently impacted by V. It's not a temporary version of V. They all inject themselves with V to go out and fight.
Yes.
It's not, they don't get 24 hours of power in the comic books.
No.
Like I mentioned that in our last episode as well. So it is slightly different, but I love that they have this put in here, and I can't wait for the confrontation from the rest of the team
Yes.
to say, hang on a second, you're taking on our major opposition's powers to fight them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting.
Definitely. And it will be question mark about Mother's Milk, what happens there. Whether they are going to completely veer that he is potentially powered or not powered, etc. And how they do that from veering from the comic books or not. But yeah, let's see. But I did really like that hangover and how it left with Ryan as well. Because of the whole Mallory situation. Butcher is hungover, coming down off a high, after getting all this information about Payback and Mallory and the betrayal of Mallory, or his perceived betrayal of Mallory, because she potentially knew something that could kill Homelander.
Yeah.
He then pushes Ryan away hard. So how that plays out further is going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, it is a really sad moment when Billy pushes him away. You know, it's just that, I suppose, just underlining it with him taking off that St. Christopher's medal that was given to Billy by Becca to protect Billy, and then Billy passed it on to Ryan to protect him when he's not there. You know, it's just that symbolic moment when Ryan says, I hate you, and takes off the St. Christopher's medal. So all connecting back to that relationship that the three of them had together, and Becca no longer there. So, but really, you know, it's not just pushing him away. It is also telling him a possible truth here, which is, does Billy Butcher want to spend any time with Ryan, since he is the one that technically killed Becca? Even though he's a young kid, he's the one that fired lasers out of his eyes trying to hit Stormfront, and it hit Becca and killed her as well. So, is that actual truth from Billy, or is he using something to push Ryan away? Don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where it does go, because the whole thing was that everything was copacetic by the end of by the beginning of this season. Well, in theory, poor Huey thought everything was perfect.
Yeah,
the status quo had been reached and everything was happy. And
that's not the
case.
Boys.
That's not how this goes.
No.
What about yourself? Any outstanding moments for you?
I just want to talk a little bit about A-Train. I'm kind of liking his story arc, because he's trying to fight his way back into the Seven, being a non-powered superhero. We talked about the pushback from Homelander saying he's gaining weight because he's no longer able to run, and he used to have to eat a huge amount to deal with the energy. And now he's trying his new tack, which is trying to dress up in Native Jamaican colors to represent the black community. And I love that his brother has come back now. They had a falling out because he was taking drugs last season, and himself and his brother had a falling out. And now his brother's coming back to him and trying to bring him back into the family, trying to give him some support again. But I love the reaction of his sister-in-law and his nephews when they see him in his new outfit. They're all going, "That is terrible, and we know you don't represent our community at all." But I'm wondering if we'll have a bit of redemption for A-Train. Again, A-Train's the one that kicked off this whole storyline for Huey. He's the one that killed Huey's girlfriend. Accidentally, yeah, but he didn't care. And now they're effectively setting him up on this path that potentially he might care for his community. His brother's showing him this video of a woman who was mugged, and another Soup Blue Hawk. He murders a black guy who's just walking down the street for no reason at all, other than to say that he's done something about it.
Yeah.
He's just taking his own power into his own hands. We talked a lot about this season that the superheroes on this show are just children with superpowers. They're not heroes at all. They're just doing whatever they want to because they're massively powerful and they can't be stopped by anybody else. And they're getting away with it. So will A-Train now veer down that path? Will he actually make a difference? Will he become a good character as the show goes on? I really like that they have this storyline going on in the background while he's trying to figure out a way to just get into the marketing style of things. Maybe his brother will get through to him now.
I think they are going to do a BLM moment for A-Train where he is the center point and he kind of becomes a figurehead because he calls out that that's not who he is. Like, he's not Martin Luther King.
Yeah. He's more Michael Jordan than
yes.
Martin Luther King.
And I think that's as soon as they said those words, I was like, okay, I think I see where you're going to go, because he said it's a 50-50 coin flip. If he runs again, he can go fast, or his heart was going to explode.
Yeah,
that's where they are. So I think they may do that type of movement, that type of piece, and he is going to. And it's going to be an interesting one how they draw this. I think that I have full faith in that they will do right by this.
Yeah.
I have no worries or qualms about how potentially this will go. I think that they'll play. Part of it will be for comedic effect. Part of it will be very similar to season 2 and the Nazism and the rise of Nazism, I should say, or fascism in the world today. We did in season 2. I think they may do an element of that for this season.
Absolutely, and that's not gone from the show either. Like you heard when Homelander's announcing who he wants to come back on the team, you see him looking at Starlight and saying to her, I'm not having a Muslim on my team. Yeah. Why would you ever think I would do something like that? Like, he is massively racist.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's absolutely who Homelander is. But exactly as we were saying earlier on, he just doesn't want to connect with the word Nazi. But he knows exactly what way he wants the team to look, and they all would look like him and act like him if he had the opportunity, basically. So yes, I think it's entirely possible. I kind of like the setup at the start of the episode. Okay, that's it for our major moments from the episode. I don't think there's any notes. We've talked about a lot of the episode.
No, yeah, we pretty much got it all. We talked about it in the synopsis. Supersonic is now a member of the Seven, along with the Deep. So he is there. He's going to try and support Starlight as much as he can as well from internal within the Seven, but he'll be corrupted. It's fine. He'll be killed off by Homelander. You know it's going to happen. Absolutely.
I'm not too sure how a love triangle works in the Seven when your love rival is Homelander, or at least that's the story.
Well, it's a love square now, don't forget, because you've got Huey, Homelander, and Supersonic.
That's very true. Very true. Overall, Chris, what did you think of episode 3 of season 3 of The Boys, Barbary Coast?
I loved it. The Boys for me has always been this gritty, realistic, over the top kind of superhero show. Mm-hmm. And from episode 1 to episode 3, they have pulled you in on this. I think that it's definitely there's pacing up and down on parts of it, but because they released the first 3 episodes back to back, I understand why. Again, they did it before, but you got enough if you watch these at least in a very short window. Then it's a perfect amount. But I can see aspects of, if this was kind of released weekly on the first 3, you'd be like, oh, what, hold on, give me 1 second, like, back it up there, just remind me again what this part was. But when you watch it all 3 together, it's great. As just an episode 3, it's fun. It's evolving the storyline. And it's definitely also playing and setting up some potential points. One we didn't even mention, which is Starlight and her, when she does things that she really doesn't want to do. She now has a towel where she's kind of squeezing her fist. And so there's a whole storyline there that we're going to get to, which is going to be absolutely fantastic to watch. Yeah. In the way it's portrayed, I should say. not the abuse, obviously, of course. But definitely going to be interesting. So yeah, 100% really enjoyed this. Excellent. What about yourself?
Really liked it. This episode, as you say, Chris, it's the slower of the episodes, but because we have it centrally wrapped around the introduction of Payback and seeing this version of Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy, because we have that, and because we have that kind of flashback almost to 1984, it makes sense why it's a little bit slower. It's not the calm before the storm, though. It feels like the building of the storm, which is what I really like about the tension of what's going on with Homelander from that moment at the beginning of the episode where he's told he's gone up 21 points, all the way through to where he's realizing he can basically do whatever he wants. Oh, by the way, John told me to say he absolutely loved the scene with Kobe Minifee as Ashley telling Homelander all of the details about his stock rising in the world and Homelander rising as she's telling him all the information about it. He said it was his favourite scene from the episode. Just forgot to say that, but absolutely loved it. It's nothing to do with you, Ashley. Keep going with your information that you're telling me. Hilarious. But the fact that it's building throughout it, and the fact that Homelander's shackles are now coming off and he's not rushing to just destroy everybody, it does mean that he is smarter than people have probably given him credit for. He's got a plan here. And it feels like he could just go off on one if someone tries to stop his plan, which is a big problem. But nobody's in his way right now, so he's kind of calm. But it does feel like it's building. That tension with Homelander is building. So they better get that weapon pretty soon, the boys. So, but really good episode overall. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, good stuff.
Excellent. Well, much like Butcher, I need to go wet me whistle.
Excellent. Excellent. From the Barbary Coast to the bar, Chris?
Yes, let's go. Let us take to the boys' pub quiz.
Absolutely, yes. Third question for the boys' pub quiz is, in the camp in Nicaragua, there is a song playing on the radio. What song is being covered? It was also featured in Moon Knight, a little clue for our regular TV podcast industries listeners. So give that again. In the camp in Nicaragua, what song is being covered on the radio? Just need the title of the song. Send that in to us along with the answers to all 8 questions for the boys episode this season. You could be in the chance of getting your hands on some boys goodies. Just email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with all 8 answers. We'll get some good goodies out to the winner of the pub quiz.
Yes, excellent. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That has been our thoughts, but we're not done yet. No. We're about to head into some feedback. But before we do, we must talk about our corporate sponsorship. Vought International has sponsored us on Patreon. No. We are sponsored by Patreon. We're sponsored by you guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget, if you like what you hear, if you like what you're listening to, you can head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, and you can support us, much like William Boggs has done for this episode. Thank you so much, William, for supporting us over on patreon.com.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, William, and thanks to everybody who supports us over there on Patreon. I've been able to buy some new equipment for the podcast, which hopefully is getting the benefit on to our listeners and to ourselves. It's making it a lot easier to record and edit than it has been in the past. So thank you to all of our Patreons for supporting us.
Yes, thank you so much, please. So you can support us monthly for any amount over on patreon.com, or if you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you can pop on over to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI and actually buy Darick a coffee, because you can buy him a coffee while he edits into the wee hours, and we'll whiskey it up a bit and make it Irish, because just, it is the boys. But if you got no cash to throw our way, do not worry. You can support us by subscribing to the podcast on all the places, on all the networks, and sharing it with your friends, because sharing the podcast is what, Darick?
Sharing the love.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Thanks so much to everybody who's been sharing the podcast as well. It's great because there are so many podcasts out there that cover a multitude of shows. We were the number one boys podcast for season 2 of The Boys. So we'd love to reclaim that position. That would be really nice. So please share the podcast. It'd be really nice for everybody who watches The Boys to be listening to us.
Yeah. So tell every world. Tell your grannies. Tell your grandmas. Tell your granddads, your opas, your omas, and anything else. Your mums, your dads, your nanas, your, I don't know, just tell your family. Come on. Absolutely. Because we want to hear their thoughts. Because do you know what? We listen and we read out your feedback, because that's where we're going now.
Absolutely. Yes, let's get over to the feedback section. First up, we're going to start with Facebook. On our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, there's a spoiler post up for each of the episodes of the shows. First up, Salima Kislar had some thoughts on the first episode. He says, all right, well, they certainly raised the bar again, didn't they? That scene with Termite was absolutely insane. Butcher is a diabolical genius. It looks like they're getting close to the comics this season, with Butcher in all black, the team working for the government in the Flatiron building, and we know the boys will be taking V soon. I'm loving the spycraft elements with Maeve informing Butcher, and MM still running his own investigation despite being out of the boys. Looks like we're in for another great season, and will possibly culminate with a powered Butcher versus Homelander showdown. Oh, and Charlize Theron is everywhere. Salim also had some thoughts after listening to our first podcast episode for episode 1. He said John was on fire in this episode. In retrospect, I should have seen Newman working for Vought coming. Her first victim that we saw was Raynor, just when she was getting too close. And of course, her powers must have come from Vought, because that's where everybody's powers come from.
Exactly, Salim.
Absolutely, Salim. John loved that as well. Just to let you know, Chris, we obviously are a PG podcast here on The Boys, so no cursing, no major adult material. But John was really enjoying pushing the boundaries of what he could say before I cut him off and edited him out. So yeah, so most of it made it. Let's say. Yeah,
because it was a shrinking and engorging and enlarging moment with Termite. Obviously,
yes, it was.
And of course, to see such spectacular technique being done and called out is such an amazing thing. I think I kept it all PG there. You don't need to edit any of that. But thank you so much, Salim.
Thanks, Liam.
Yes, over on Facebook, we also had feedback on episode 1 from Dr. Bob Phillips, who had this to say. They didn't want a slow ramp up, did they? The recap before the show proper did a cracking job of resetting expectations. It reminded me of the buckets of gore involved, but I was properly surprised by the terrible termite scene. Perfect, though. Homelander keeping Stormfront in a secret hospital bay just brings home his narcissistic worst. And that set of scenes with Edgar, A-Train, and our ancient Nazi were played perfectly. With the good guys-ish. I was a bit surprised by the discovery of Huey of Newman head popper in episode 1, where I'd been guessing it would be in the mid-scene reveal. How will we get MM back into the fold? Will Starlight get it on with Supersonic? Does Huey get more suits? How addicted does Butcher get to Temp V? All will be revealed, I'm sure. Yes, Dr. Bob. Partially, a lot of it has been revealed already. Yeah, and Huey lost his suits. That's how much it's changed already.
Absolutely. And did you see the love triangle incorporating Homelander? Like, I was absolutely thinking what Dr. Bob was thinking. We're going to see Starlight end off with Supersonic because they have a past relationship, and Huey and herself's relationship is not going well right now. He's starting to hide things from her. So, nope, not at all. Nope. Homelander comes out on TV and says live that she's his new girlfriend. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yes, it's definitely it's going to be fun. But thank you so much, Dr. Bob, for
Thanks,
all that
Dr. Bob. Absolutely. Jamie Lawton says, some nice call out to the original comic, like the Boys HQ in Flatiron Building in New York, and seeing Simon Pegg, the reason I started watching The Boys in the first place, and in a roundabout way started listening to you guys' podcast. Also, the confirmation that Bobby Singer, played by Jim Beaver, is Dakota Bob. Sorry, I'm gushing with excitement as I was waiting to see this for so long. I wonder if the reason why Jamie listens to us is because we have a European accents like Simon Pegg. Maybe that's what it is.
It is. And we go, wee Huey. Go, wee Huey.
Well, that's a Scottish accent, Chris.
That's the worst Scottish accent that wee Huey was supposed to get. I can go French on. Oui, oui. Oh, oui, oui, monsieur. You know, this is how we talk now. It's all French. Frenchy podcast, all French, all the time.
Please don't do that, Chris.
And I apologise to any French listeners out there. I apologise well in advance. But thank you so much, Jamie, for all of that. We also have some feedback on episode 2. It's from Dr. Bob Phillips. Yes, he had this to say. This has gone very dark. Only 2 episodes in, and we are eyeballs deep in traumatized children, unmasking of the murderous urges of Homelander, and Butcher and Huey falling prey to unreasonable envy. Only the placid couple of Frenchie and the female can save the day. That's got to be a bad day. They did. They really did. Like, I'm hoping Frenchie and the female kind of Kimiko kind of stay together in this one. Yeah. I know they're gonna they'll break it apart slightly over the and then kind of reforge them towards the end. But I do like that because I don't know what it is about that the 2 actors kind of have this chemistry on screen that is just really well done, and it's almost it's not kind of like hot, palpable. Oh my god, it's so visceral. They're amazing. It's very much an emotional kind of bond. It looks great, especially when he is communicating in sign language to her.
And didn't he say he learnt it just because of her? He
Yeah.
didn't know it in the past. He learnt it just to get closer to Kamiko, which I think is just really good part of their story. I love the two of them together. I did like the kind of contrast between him talking to Sherry, who's saying we can run away together and we can go to Marseille, we can hide out. And then it comes to later on with Kamiko when she's saying she wants to leave the boys and she's saying we could run away together and go and hide out. So interesting. I wonder if they may pitch the two of them against each other in the future in Frenchie's mind, but he's certainly very caring towards Kamiko and all the things she's gone through.
Definitely so.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Bob. We also got some feedback from Jamie Lawton on episode 2 as well, who had this to say: "Not without my dolphin" is my favourite quote from episode 2, and that line, "Eat Timothy" on episode 3, made me so sad for the deep.
Aww.
Yes, poor Timothy, but remember his dolphin.
Absolutely, yeah. He's had a lot of bad luck. I'm sure sea creatures are like, will you move to the desert, please? Just keep away from all of us.
I did hear that the actor Chase Crawford, who plays the deep, is getting hate mail on social media. Surprise, surprise. It's a cesspit. But he's getting it because the character of the deep is playing on Aquaman. And they're like, stop making fun of our Aquaman. Like, stop making fun. Aquaman's cool. Look at Jason Momoa. And he's like, no, he's having sex with fish.
Yeah.
Relax.
Well, he's saying he wouldn't be doing his job right if he didn't get hate mail from Aquaman
exactly.
fans.
That's true.
I think is the thing. After 60 years, you had to hire Jason Momoa to make your character interesting.
Yeah.
That's basically where it is. So, all good. I'm sure there are great Aquaman comics out there, but just not enough of them. Thanks so much, Jamie. Over on email, we got an email in from Coffee and Vodka on his thoughts on the first 3 episodes. He says, "Greetings, fellow escalating defenders. The UN climate report states that in 2050 we'll pretty much be in game over status. Accordingly, I'm thinking about starting a new streaming network called Screw Subtlety TV, because who has the time anymore? The shows I'd like to commission include Banshee, Invincible, Happy, Peacemaker, Ash vs. Evil Dead, and in the prime slot, The Boys. The first season 3 episodes started with a literal bang and set the plot in efficient order. It seemed to be directed via painting targets on most of the characters, with Homelander as Jason. This especially with Mother's Milk's family and the tension of a potential birthday party slaughter, which happily didn't happen. Loved every second of this episode though. 5 Gesundheits out of 5. Nice Coffee Vodka. On episode 2, he says, "From start to finish, a well-written build of mystery of Soldier Boy, the breaking down and rebuilding of personal identity and purpose, and the forming up of battle lines. Homelander's speech in particular was scary for both the obvious reason of him taking himself off the chain and the reactionaries it may inspire. This especially after the death and possible militant martyrdom of Stormfront. An excellent build-up to the next show. 5 bulletproof butchers out of 5. I like it. Yeah, the reactionaries, we kind of talked about that there is a whole group of people that were following Stormfront's ideals. So they're starting to get, I guess, agitated towards Homelander now by his speech. So very interesting. Coffee Vodka says, "Number 3 was a bit of a drop of an episode. Didn't check the credits, but it felt like an entirely different writing team took this one on without taking any notes from the writer of the previous 2 episodes. Character tones were different, with inexplicable plot swings, such as Butcher unnecessarily abandoning the kid, and Homelander's going from off the Vought chain to diving into petty inter-team politics. And it was clear that Grace never had any control over Soldier Boy's appearance, and never saw any weapons of superhero destruction. There was no reason for the team's negative reaction. Like the script just said, place drama here. In short, a bit of a meandering mess, which I hope it can come back from. 3 Squid Games out of 5. Oh, I like that one too. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka. I'm liking your ratings this week, Coffee and Vodka. They're all very impressive.
Especially the Squid Games.
Yes, I like it. There are some reasons, and I'm just not too sure whether the dialogue that was presented allows them to come across well enough. Effectively, Butcher is blaming Mallory for the death of Becca because he didn't get the information from Mallory in the past. If he'd known this information, that there was a possible easy way to take out Homelander, maybe he could have stopped it from happening. That's what he believes. Maybe Homelander could have been stopped way before he got to the point that he's killing off other people. So that's his side of it. We hear from MM as well that she was involved in distributing drugs to black communities and other communities throughout the country. That has gotten him completely messed up. And also we know, because Soulja Boy is the person that killed his father or his family, effectively this is going to cause him major problems as well. So I can see why the group turn on Mallory, but maybe just the way it was delivered in dialogue probably may not have come along well enough.
No, and I do think what they'll do is it will be explored more in the future. I think like we saw more about this, how Soulja Boy being involved in Mother Milk's family's death, and how his dad became obsessed with Soulja Boy. Exactly. Again, kind of we're starting to get those threads that causes his OCD, that causes him to potentially lash out at the smoke alarm. And yeah, like it. I think there's going to be subtle aspects, and I think then we are used to slaps in the face when it comes to the boys. It's kind of very visceral, in your face. So I think there is definitely some nuances kind of being talked through here in the narrative.
Yeah.
Because if you missed Timothy, if you missed that it was the same octopus, you're like, oh, okay. But he didn't call Timothy out in the bedroom. He just kind of, it's an octopus. But then he was like, no, it's like, there's definitely blinking, you'll miss a continuity here. But I think more of it will come throughout the season.
Good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for your thoughts so far on the first 3 episodes of The Boys. You can still email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group to share your thoughts if you want to about the first 3 episodes. We'll be back next week with our chat about The Boys Season 3, Episode 4, Glorious 5-Year Plan on TV Podcast Industries. Make sure you subscribe to TV Podcast Industries at tvpodcastindustries.com.
Yes, and please
I said the name of our podcast enough there, Chris, didn't I?
I think you did. But if you are subscribing on any of the platforms, please make sure consider giving us a rating, a 5-star rating, because it does help a lot with the discovery and all those things. So if you're on Spotify, if you're on iTunes, you're on any podcast catcher, hit the old 5 stars and just give us a bit of a like and a rating and a review to help spread the good word. Like Darick said, we will be back for episode 4 next week, but we will also be back next week with the first episode of Miss Marvel coming on Disney Plus.
Yes, looking forward to Miss Marvel. The premiere's been on this week. There was lots of interviews with the lead actress and the cast, so I'm really interested to dive into Miss Marvel again. Another different show from Marvel on Disney Plus. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be good, and we'll be back later this month as well with Umbrella Academy Season 3. It is going to be a packed June and July, so make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you next week for Boys Episode 4.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us. Keep watching, keep listening, and keep fighting. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.